Okay, guys, this is Ascension series video number 7. Isolation isn't always separation. Sometimes it's just space to integrate the lesson. So, if you've been watching and following along, we've been talking about how you actually integrate the process of energetic ascension because ascension is just a rise in your frequency, and that's all tied to energy. So, it's a natural byproduct that as you start to rise in your frequency, you will no longer resonate with lower frequency people, places, and things. I always try to use myself as an example. So this is my example. Prior to my energy clearing and my rise in frequency, my favorite things to do was watch football, college and pro, and drink with my friends and talk about people. Yeah. And that is still what they do. And so in order for me to actually spend time with them, that's what I had to be willing to do. And I tried it. I thought, well, I can just go and be there and not really participate. And I did a couple of times, and it felt really funky in my body. All the low energy and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. I felt like there was so much loosh being produced in those situations, and it was no longer for me. So I let them go. I let it all go. And in doing so, my friend group became none. And that's okay because that was a choice that I made. And I knew that. I knew that as I would change for my highest and best good, it was my choices. And that didn't mean that other people then needed to change because that's their free will choice. If they chose to do that on their own, that's completely fine. But it was not it for me to go in a guilt frame, right? I've decided that I can no longer drink and I don't want to talk about people. I don't want to be judgmental of anyone and I don't want to watch football, but I still want to hang out. None of them wanted to do that. So I had to realize that the decisions that I made affected everyone differently, but most importantly, I had to be okay with it. So my isolation was a byproduct of my ascension. And you too will find that the more your frequency rises, even if you don't make that aha moment connection, your frequency rises, and then you go to engage with the same beings that you always engaged with, and all of a sudden it's like oil and water because you have risen in a frequency that you're out of range from where they are. That means that the things that you want to say, they literally cannot receive them. And that's like, I always use the analogy of trying to tune in the radio frequency. So if you're trying to listen to a station, but you're on AM instead of FM, you're never going to be able to tune in. So when we rise in frequency, we rise in a range. And that means that as you first start to rise, things aren't as noticeable. But the more your frequency rises, it becomes inevitable. Like they're going to fall away because they too are no longer comfortable in your energy vortex. And that's just a byproduct of ascension. So you will probably get pushback from people that are used to you being around, used to kind of feeding off your bright light energy. And they'll say, how come you never come around anymore? Or how come you're so different when you come around? Or how come you don't like to do anything with us anymore? So it's like this guilt, this burden that they'll lay on you. But the reality of it is that you have evolved beyond their frequency. And this is not a hierarchy thing. This is just physics. This is just science. This is just the way it is. So when you're not truly alone either, because we always have our spirit team with us and they're there to support you. They're not there to lead you. If you're being led by anything, it's not benevolent. So your spirit team is going to come in stronger than usually because you're in this period of introspection. You're going inside your own being and you're reconciling, doing your shadow work, and your day is busy. I remember being in this, and I would literally spend all day going from meditation to journaling to downloads to coming on the other end of this aha moment and then feeling clarity again. And next thing you know, it's time to go to sleep. Like it's bedtime. And I'm thinking, like, God, where did the day go? But as your frequency rises, things do move quicker. You move through things faster, more efficiently. And that is the natural byproduct of ascension as well. And I find that to be a good thing. Like, who wants to be stuck in a moment where you don't have clarity? To me, that sounds like where you came from, not where you're going. So deep reconciliation activations, healing that comes from sitting, being silent, meditating, being out in nature with no devices. You're just processing energy in a way that flows through you and allows for clarity to rise. That's when you're allowing the frequency, the ascension, the lesson, the code, the codex, whatever's coming through to be embodied in your body, in your physical form. So you're embodying it in your spirit. You're making a mental note of it, but the mental aspect of it is far down the food chain. You really want to embody it in your spirit because it is as much of a part of you as anything else. And next time you encounter something, you don't have to have this deep moment of reflection. You just go, yeah, this is the new me. This is a new aspect of me. And I flow here. It's just effortless because you've already done the work. If you're still feeling a ton of friction, it's literally saying we got some shadows to take care of, things that we need to let go of, things we need to clear up, and take that nugget, that gold nugget, and then move forward. So this means that you're separate from source. Typically, and speaking for myself, I felt more connected and I was directly connected to Source and Sophia from the moment I pivoted away from the distractions. So for a long time, alcohol and traveling and football and all that stuff was distracting me from the shadow work, the core wounds of my being that I needed to heal, the trauma that I needed to heal. Those are distractions. So when I no longer had the distractions, I was energetically forced to face the shadows. And it was exactly what I needed. And it gave me the clarity and the healing that I had wanted all along. I just didn't realize how to go about it. And most people are that way. Most people are not consciously saying, I have this hobby and this hobby and this project because I don't want to heal. That's not a conscious thought most of the time. It's just a byproduct of escapism, of not being real, of not really dropping out of the brain into the heart and taking your own spiritual hygiene accountable. So you're more connected, you get more downloads, you get more clarity, you figure out that this event that happened to you when you were 12 is now connected to this revelation that you had in your 40s. To me, that was always like, I would always envision the sacred geometry of the flower of life, right? So it was at this far end of a petal where this event happened, this traumatic event happened when I was younger. And now here I am back into the center of the flower, center of myself, blossoming and becoming and remembering who I am. And it all made sense. Again, my examples. But as you have internal alignment, so you allow things that no longer serve you to fall away, and you also allow things that now serve you to become a part of your world where before you didn't even recognize them. This gives you the clear space to feel love, to feel the warmth of Source Creator, to not question your worth, to know that you're worthy and you're deserving of this relationship that is definitely between you and Creator. No middlemen needed. And so the caution is that we all have a unique path with very similar steps along the way. You don't become higher than or like unreachable. If you are thinking or feeling that you are untouchable for shadows or untouchable for negative energy or anything like that, that is actually showing us that it's your ego talking and your ego is just kind of sick of it and wants to be on a pedestal again. And that's where you want to deal with the ego. So it's ego taming, where you go, a being is always susceptible to energy because we're energy. There's nothing that truly stops the energy. Now you can filter it, you can bubble yourself, you can slow down the flow, you can cut and block and things like that. But there are no guarantees because we're all energy. And as long as energy flows and can be connected, it can reach you. So the ego is trying to tell you that you don't need to do this anymore. You're good. We're good. We're good. You don't need to do that shadow work. But what you want to do is get beyond that thought process where there is no need to try to control other energies. You just take it as it flows. And you can then allow anything that's not for you to flow on through without it getting stuck. That's where you want to be. So if you feel like you're getting kind of stuck with your mind saying, yeah, we don't need to do any more shadow work. We're done forever. And we love how people think we have all the answers to Ascension. So let's just stay here. That's feeding the ego. And so you definitely have more work to do. When we arrived in this duality dimension that we chose, we knew we would engage friction. And it's that friction that spurs us into remembering who and what we are and why we volunteered to come here. But there's no set pace. There's no set script because we all interject in the human free will choice. And the human free will choice is susceptible to the leverage of the ego. So that's where it's a nuance that we all have to pay attention to. So when you're ready for more, your higher self allows more to come in. That's your gatekeeper, your higher self. And it's the culmination of the wisdom of all your lives and experiences. So I hear a lot of times people say, how come I can't just know it all right now? Like, just give me all the disclosure, give me all the dirt, tell me everything that's happened. Because your literal nervous system would short circuit. It's not meant to receive that much trauma in one go. So you may or may not have seen old images of like MK Ultra experiments and things like that can break the psyche. And the human mind is not wired for that. So just because you've experienced it on a soul level and all the dimensions are occurring at the same time doesn't mean that your human body and your human brain can receive all that at one time. Please do yourself a favor and stop asking for that, because it's really, when you do that, you're telling the universe you're immature in your approach to disclosure. It's meant to come in layers. That's why we heal in layers. And your higher self knows what your nervous system can handle. So lots of times people are like, I wish I could just live and have a moment where I don't feel like I'm battling the whole world. And it's the same people that tend to say, give me everything right now so I can just be done with it. Like, realize that you've literally asked for this. And then you complain that you can't feel like you're not in a battle anymore, but you've asked for the battle to be delivered to your front door. So let's do this in small micro doses, layers at a time, guided by your higher self, the wisdom keeper of all of your lives, so that you can come out the other end whole and clear and aligned. There's not a race. You don't get points from the universe and the divine for doing it all in one fell swoop. That is a total matrix way of thinking. So each and every layer that rises, it takes the same steps to reconcile it. And the amount of time and energy it takes is the amount of time and energy it takes. I can't tell you that it's going to be quicker the longer that you dive into your shadow work, but in general, it gets easier because you get practice at it. So you allow the event and the pain to surface, because we don't really have control over that, do we? And then the trauma or whatever it is surfaces and you feel it and it gets your attention and you want to pause. You don't want to react. You don't want to attack someone else or blame someone else, because you don't need to add more wounding to the event. And then once it no longer feels sharp, it doesn't feel like the knife in your back. It just feels like an ache. Then you want to lean into that and really get true, authentic with yourself. What actually caused that wound? Was it because the person you loved most said the most horrible thing to you and they don't even remember it? Was it because this physical thing happened to you and no one in your family believed you? The people that were supposed to take care of you failed you? Like, that is what you have to reconcile. And then you want to get to the space. Again, this is your time, not up to me. You want to get to the space, where you can then forgive yourself and all parties involved. Send love to yourself and all parties involved, and gratitude to yourself and all parties involved. And then you let it go. You let every being involved in the event go with that love, forgiveness, and gratitude. Because if you don't let it go, you've done the work, but you're still carrying the chain over your shoulder. The weight of the event is going to stay with you. And that is not healthy. That doesn't liberate you from the wounding. And this is the process that is LFG, and that you will continue. Every time another layer has surfaced and you have shadow work to do, this is the process that you're going to do. And this allows you to embody the lesson, let go of all the noise, and let go of you can move on. You can ascend. Your frequency can rise. You integrate, and that is your liberation. And that is how you evolve. If you feel stuck, a lot of times it's because you're not letting go of it. You're doing all the things, but you've failed to truly let it go. And that comes with like a self-guidance, right? So you're going to self-check yourself. So if I've LFG'd a being from my past and a memory comes up and it's kind of on loop, I know I need to go back and LFG that. It's coming back for a reason. But if it's not really a memory that comes up and I'm like being curious or nosy or digging into something, then that's on me. Because I'm making free will choices to go back and interject myself in something I've already healed. So it just depends on the situation. Your shadow work will bring you into a certain level of introspection, which always looks like isolation from those that aren't privy. You don't have to explain it. I want you to honor it, because it's really important. When you take that time to go within, to be introspective, a lot of things in your life change. And other people that have known you forever may not recognize you anymore. And you have to get to the place where you're okay with that, because you feel so whole. And that was the aha moment for me. I had less stuff and I had less friends. I hardly spoke to anyone, and yet I felt so fulfilled and so whole and so grounded. And I knew who I was and I knew why I was here. And all of my life, I had all the things and all the people and all the jobs and the friends, and I didn't know why I was here. So for me, it came full circle. And I realized that friend group was really just a distraction. If you're just collecting friends, what is your purpose for that? Whenever you start to remember who and what you are, maybe you start to remember past lives, maybe you start to connect dots of things that you recognized a long time ago, but you were talked out of that magic and now you're remembering them again. That's where you want to focus your energy because that is for you. It comes from within. So exterior sources of information can drop in things that give you the ahas, but they're not meant to do the work for you. You have to do the work for you. And that's your self check. So you get an aha, you get a download, you connect some dots, but you don't live there. None of us were put here to be dot connectors. I was for a limited time. Honestly, it was like part of what I did. And then I evolved out of it. And then I had to learn how to not be a dot connector and how to just focus on myself. So it actually became part of the journey. And it can be part of your journey too. And that's okay. But it's not the end game. It's not the end goal, or it shouldn't be, because we don't evolve to just stay in one dimension. Every being from the planet on up goes through the series of evolution through all the dimensions. And then they have the opportunity to start over. I'll see you again next time.